Hello, welcome to the morning edition of MBC News, and you are with me, Evelys Jungambi. Coming up this morning, 3 people have died and over 7,000 households affected by heavy rains experienced in the country. Downy mildew disease hits parts of Blantyre and Machinga districts Masefields. And government pledges to support establishment of a bank for cooperatives. Thank you for joining us. Now the news in detail. 3 people have died and 41 others have been injured following devastating rains experienced in some parts of the country from the 22nd to the 28th of this month. A statement from the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, DOTMA, says a total of 7,205 households, which is approximately 32,422 people, have been affected by disasters. Currently, DOTMA is reaching out to the affected with food and non-food items, including plastic sheets for temporary roofing. The statement further says local search and rescue operations are being conducted in Sanje and Nkhotakota districts. Meanwhile, the department has made standby arrangements for the deployment of a national search and rescue team comprising the Malawi Defence Force, the Malawi Police Service, the Marine Department and the Malawi Red Cross Society. The affected district councils are Blantyre, Chikwawa, Chitipa, Deza, Loa, Karonga, Lilongwe City, Lilongwe District, Mlanje, Nkata Bay, Nkhotakota, Nsanje, and Salema. The Moroccan ambassador to Malawi, Abdelkader Najri, has described his working stay in the country as fruitful and peaceful, citing close cooperation with the Malawi government in key areas such as education and agriculture. Speaking in an interview with Embassy, Najri said his stay in Malawi has come to an end as he is due for retirement. He also pledged Morocco's continued commitment to collaborating with the government of Malawi for the benefit of the two nations. Catherine Banda reports.
Moroccan ambassador to Malawi, Abdelkader Najri, applauded the government of Malawi for its openness towards his office, noting that working in the country was easy as the government opened its doors to him and his team as well as to citizens who are always optimistic and hardworking. He said that during his stay in Malawi, the two governments of Morocco and Malawi strengthened bilateral ties in several sectors, including agriculture and education. He noted that Morocco increased scholarship opportunities for Malawian students and currently supporting the agricultural sector through a donation of 1,000 metric tons of fertilizer, which is already en route. Additionally, Najri said discussions on the establishment of a fertilizer manufacturing plant are underway, although progress slowed due to elections that took place in September this year. He noted that the two countries share similarities, including a commitment to peace, and said Morocco remains committed to working with Malawi to advance development. He added that both countries, like many others in Africa, are rich in natural resources which can be leveraged to promote economic self-reliance.
Malawi is also in my heart. The people are very nice. Very peaceful, and the climate is very nice too. And since I work in Malawi, all the doors open from the presidency to the government and to people. So it is a fruitful, nice, and full of good memories.
Najri is retiring after serving as Morocco's diplomatic envoy to Malawi for nearly 11 years. Catherine Banda, MBC News, Lilongwe.
A governance expert, Mavuto Bamusi, has described the establishment of a fertilizer manufacturing company by businessman Napoleon Dzombe as commendable, citing numerous socio-economic benefits to Malawi. Bamusi says apart from addressing persistent fertilizer supply challenges, the new company will help the country save forex currently spent on importing fertilizer. His remarks follow revelations by Dzombe that the fertilizer manufacturing plant is expected to commence production early next week. Isaac Jali reports.
News that a fertilizer manufacturing plant being established by businessman Napoleon Dzombe is set to commence production by April 2026 has generated excitement among stakeholders. Napoleon Dzombe says the plant has the capacity to produce 40 metric tons of fertilizer per hour, a volume he notes is sufficient to meet Malawi's national demand for NPK fertilizer within 150 days. He adds that installation of machinery at the plant is complete, while roofing works are expected to be finalized by the end of January 2026. Dzombe says the decision to invest in local fertilizer production was driven by the need to reduce the country's heavy reliance on imported fertilizer, cut import costs, and address recurring shortages on the local market.
Malawi's economy is a agro-based economy. So as we depend on agriculture, I thought it wise to come up with a processing plant for fertilizer. You know, no farmer can be successful without fertilizer. So if a farmer fails, it means agriculture has failed. So being an agro-based economy, it means the whole economy of Malawi also fails. So how can we improve such a situation? That's when I came up with an idea of building a processing plant for fertilizer so that we could ease the scarcity of fertilizer on the market. The fertilizer company, it's sizable. Yeah, it will be producing, or may I say processing, about 30 to 40 tons of fertilizer per hour, which means if we can have 2 shifts of production a day, then we can meet the needs of NPK for the whole country in 150 days.
Commenting on the development, governance expert Mavuto Bamusi has described the initiative as a game changer for Malawi's agricultural sector, saying it has the potential to boost productivity and enhance exports. Mavuto Bamusi adds that the investment aligns well with the Democratic Progressive Party DPP manifesto, which prioritizes industrialization as a pathway to transform Malawi into a middle-income economy.
The news about establishment of a fertilizer manufacturing company by businessman Napoleon Dzombe is good news. First is the fact that Malawi spends a lot of money in terms of forex to buy fertilizer from abroad. And therefore, the establishment of this company as a local fertilizer manufacturing industry will help Malawi to save the forex, which can then be used in other critical areas of the economy. Next is the fact that this local fertilizer manufacturing company will help to boost exports for a country which relies very much on agriculture. The initiative by Napoleon Dzombe is actually fulfillment of the promise that President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika made in the manifesto of the Democratic Progressive Party. So the DPP manifesto emphasizes on industrialization and boosting the manufacturing sector.
Meanwhile, Dzombe says the company has already secured agreement with the South African partners to supply raw materials once production begins. Isaac Jali, MBC, Lilongwe.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation and Water Development has announced an outbreak of downy mildew disease affecting maize crops in some parts of the country, with Blantyre and Machinga Agricultural Development Divisions, ADDs, the most affected. Public Relations Officer in the Ministry, Salome Gangire, has disclosed that so far, over 7,000 hectares of crops belonging to 29,750 farmers under Blantyre ADD have been affected. The ministry is currently assessing the impact of the disease in Zomba district. Meanwhile, the ministry has embarked on a sensitization campaign in an effort to combat the spread of the disease.
This is a disease that is caused by a water mold, but generally it attacks other crops such as millet and sugarcane, but as of now it has attacked maize.
Can you give us a picture of how huge is the problem so far?
The total area for Blantyre ADD, that is 7,361.5 hectares, belonging to 29,750 farm families has been affected. And so far, 1,905.5 hectares has been uprooted. For Machinga ADD, specifically Zomba district, is yet to submit the area affected, and assessment is still going on. As of now, farmers are advised to uproot and bury infected plants as soon as they are seen. But also we are advising the farmers to plant certified seeds from recommended suppliers, and also to use recommended plant population for good air circulation.
This is MBC News and you are with me, Evelis Chingambi. A reminder of the top stories. 3 people have died and over 7,000 households affected by heavy rains experienced in the country. Downy mildew disease hits parts of Blantyre and Machinga district's maize fields. And government pledges to support establishment of a bank for cooperatives. Welcome back. Chancellor of the International School of Seers, Prophet Shepherd Bushiri, has made a call to faith leaders and believers to ensure they invest in acquiring new knowledge to make impactful change in their communities. Prophet Shepherd Bushiri made the call in Lilongwe during a graduation of over 200 students from 72 countries in theology, leadership, business and innovation. Beatrice Mwabe reports.
After 2 years of intense training, resilience and dedication, it is time for the students to celebrate and enjoy the fruits of their toil. One by one, the students received their diplomas in theology with a focus on leadership, business and innovation. Speaking during the ceremony, Chancellor of the school, Prophet Shepherd Bushiri, says their target is to build qualified faith leaders who can contribute meaningfully in the changing world. Bushiri says it is crucial for faith leaders to understand that prayer without knowledge becomes potential without direction. Prophet Bushiri says with the training, the world will demand results, and it is important for the faith leaders to ensure they build, lead, and change history. He has since challenged the graduates to be innovative leaders who carry revelation and strategy, as the diplomas are not only spiritually but also academically and professionally recognized.
What we're trying to do here is to raise our leaders and to train our people that they should always remember that prayer alone is not enough. In the 2 Peter chapter 5 from verse 5 to 8, it says to your faith you must add skill. In other versions says virtue, and to that skill add knowledge. And that's the most important thing that we're trying to do. And this should be what must be done in all communities. We should not just raise people who believe in God, but they should also believe that God himself wants us to be skilled and also wants us to be professional.
One of the prominent figures at the graduation was His Majesty Chris Nkwanyana of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, who also graduated with a diploma. He has since stressed the need for leaders to upgrade as the world and economies continue to change.
If you look at the economy, it's not balanced. We need to balance the imbalances of the past by arming ourselves educationally. The community at large, not only the youth, because there are a lot of opportunities.
Speaking on behalf of the graduates, Joanne Stabingis has applauded the leadership of ISOS for imparting the knowledge. Stabingis says the training is a foundation of their ability to bring change through their impactful service.
It's just not about theology. We learned about business. We learned about leadership. It's things that really will help you go out and change your world, your community, your family, and whatever sphere of influence you are, even in business.
The International School of Seers offers prophetic and spiritual training programs with a focus on developing spiritual gifts, prophecy and leadership for ministers and leaders, among others, and it was established in 2014. Beatrice Mwabe, MBC News, Lilongwe.
In an effort to safeguard the rights of vulnerable groups in society, civic space actors have been urged to comply with the guidelines stipulated in the Access to Information Act. Principal Civil and Political Rights Officer for the Malawi Human Rights Commission, Monica Namonde, made the call while responding to concerns from the actors that access to information from district councils continues to be difficult, thereby hampering their operations. In her remarks, she described the recruitment of public relations officers in their respective organizations as a crucial step towards ensuring that the public is informed about their operations in various communities, including the councils.
The Access to Information Act specifically is for relevant private bodies and public bodies, and also people, if you're a relevant private body, that's when you get funds from the public purse. So to the extent of the work that you're doing, the funds of which have come from the public purse, to the extent of that work, you must comply with the provisions of the Access to Information Act. There are a number of things. So if we say that you're complying with the Access to Information Act, first you must appoint an information officer. You must make sure that your staff or personnel are trained on Access to Information Act, and then you must also be submitting reports to the. So in this instance, you submit reports to the Minister of Information, which also go to as far as Parliament. So if you do some of these things, you train your staff, you set aside a budget for access to information, then it means that you are complying. You appoint an information officer, then it means that you are complying with the requirements of the Access to Information Act.
Speaking to MBC, Chairperson of NGO Coalition for Child Rights, Desmond Mahango, has since pleaded with the Malawi Human Rights Commission to step up the enforcement of the Act, which is in line with the Malawi 2063 development agenda.
I raised a concern given that it's not easy for NGOs in the districts to access public information. Oftentimes we have MDAs, so ministries, departments and agencies of government that could refer civil society organizations wanting information to headquarters in Lero. So they will ask us, contact our headquarters if you want us to give you any information. And yet we know that these councils are an authority by themselves, so they should be able to provide that information with ease. And why we want information is not for illicit reasons, it is for the good of Malawians. We do expect the Malawi Human Rights Commission to facilitate capacity building of civil society organizations or NGOs. And the NGOs will be able to utilize that knowledge in the councils. Again, there must be a facilitation of dialogue between civil society organizations and district councils, or at least central government through Ministry of Local Government, so that we have a shared understanding in terms of how to access information. It is a requirement under the law that district councils must publish information and make it accessible. It's only a few district councils that I have visited, or we have visited as NGO Coalition for Child Rights, that where we found that councils are publishing information, although this is not very regular. So I would like the Malawi Human Rights Commission to facilitate that process so that information will be published as required under the law.
For some time, lack of access to financing has led to slow growth of cooperatives in the country, be it those involved in savings and credit, agriculture, or any cooperative. In light of this challenge, government has pledged to support them establish their own bank so long as they have the requisite financing. Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Tourism, Wiskes Nkombezi, made the pledge during the commemoration of the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives. The event was organized by the Malawi Federation of Cooperatives. Isaac Jali has a report.
For some years now, cooperatives have played a crucial role in improving people's living conditions through access to finance for business, agriculture inputs and fees, while at the same time ensuring financial inclusion by empowering long-time marginalized groups such as women and people with disability to be economically self-reliant. At the commemoration of International Year of Cooperatives, Executive Director for the Malawi Federation of Cooperatives, Mafeko, John Nkosi, said for lacking access to financing, some cooperatives are experiencing sluggish growth to make any meaningful impact. He cited prohibitive lending conditions by banks as a key factor and prayed for a standalone bank to finance cooperatives' activities.
Why we are advocating for a cooperative bank, we are aware that sometimes development partners as well as government do have funds that are deposited with various commercial banks to enable that various SMEs and cooperatives should access. But you find that the conditions that these banks come up with, they impinge, they make cooperatives not able to access these funds. Hence the need that we should have our own bank, because we feel it will be, if we own it, we'll be able to regulate it and control it. We'll own it, regulate it and control it. So it will deliver services that are desired within the cooperative movement.
So what should government do?
We are looking at if government was able to come up with seed money, an approach where we would have maybe 60% coming from government and 40% coming from the cooperative movement. And then as the period, on agreed period, government should be shedding off those shares with passage of time, so that at the end of maybe 5-10 years, that bank should be wholly owned by the cooperative movement.
Wiskes Nkombezi, Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Tourism, said government acknowledges the role cooperatives play in socio-economic development of the country. Hence, it is ready to facilitate establishment of such a bank, the first of its kind in Malawi.
Government is also committed to creating a bank for cooperatives, but that should be done together with the cooperative movement themselves. You know, the principle behind cooperatives is that cooperatives themselves must have ownership in that bank. So government can initiate the process, but we should have shareholding from the cooperatives themselves. So we need to sit down, us and the cooperative movement, and map a way forward in terms of how can we create this institution. It must be a sustainable institution, and therefore ownership is a very crucial matter when we talk about establishing that bank. So we will look into that. We will work with the Ministry of Finance, but more crucial are the cooperatives themselves. We have agricultural cooperatives, we have financial cooperatives. If you look at the cooperatives landscape in Malawi, you will see that in terms of finances, the financial cooperatives are stronger than the non-financial cooperatives. But a cooperative bank must serve all. So how do we make sure that we have strong agricultural cooperatives, strong housing cooperatives, strong mining cooperatives, so that this bank will embrace all the cooperatives? And when we talk about ownership in that kind of bank, it should come from all subsectors of the cooperative movement.
The International Year of Cooperatives was proclaimed by the United Nations to, among other things, highlight the role of cooperatives in sustainable development and poverty alleviation. Isaac Jali, MBC, Lilongwe.
And that's it from our newsroom this morning. A recap of our top stories before we leave. 3 people have died and over 7,000 households affected by heavy rains experienced in the country. Downy mildew disease hits parts of Blantyre and Machinga district's maize fields. And government pledges to support establishment of a bank for cooperatives. Keep up to date with our news by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen, or subscribe to our SMS services by dialing *364#. You've been with me, Evelis Jingambe. Thanks for watching and good morning.
Good morning, and it's time for weather forecast. We are currently still expecting windy conditions to persist over some areas, which will be accompanied by localized thunderstorms and rains, which will be heavy in some areas, especially over the north and some parts along the lake shore. We are also expecting moderate mwela winds to continue blowing over our lake water bodies, such as Lake Malawi and Lake Chirwa. Hence, we are still advising all lake users, including fishermen, to continue being very observant. This is all due to the influence of the Intertropical Convergence Zone, ITCZ, which is the convergence of southeasterly winds converging with northeasterly winds and influencing these heavy rains, especially over the northern part of the country and some parts along the lake shore. This is why this morning cloudy conditions are persisting over the country, accompanied by localized heavy rains in areas such as Nkatabe, Nzimba, as well as Likoma. Temperatures are also persisting to feel mild this morning over most areas in the south, the central, as well as the north, such as Mzuzu, which is being forecasted at 17 degrees Celsius, 18 over Lilongwe, and 20 over Mangochi. This afternoon, we should expect localized heavy rains to persist over some areas, especially over the central and some parts along the lake shore. Temperatures are also expected to remain hot this afternoon in areas such as Ngabu and Nsanje at 30 degrees Celsius, 29 over Karonga, but mild conditions are expected to persist over the central as well as most parts over the north. I'm Tabua Kudakumudu. Be wise, be weatherwise.
Zaimba diangero kumamba, Zaimba diangero kumamba.